STOL rats.
Yeah.
All right, how's everybody doing? So I've got a topic I want to talk about real quick before I get back to the build videos, and that's helmets, flight helmets. Why are we not wearing flight helmets? If we're out doing your average weekend flyer where we're taking off from one airport going to another airport, is a helmet really necessary in a Piper or a Cessna or any plane for that matter? If you're not taking huge risks on where you're landing, do you really need a helmet, or is a headset adequate? Well, obviously, if you're going to be involved in a crash, having something on your noodle is going to be better than not. What's the risk there, right, of getting into an incident or an accident when you're doing airport-to-airport operations? I don't know if it's higher or lower. I know that when we go out flying, what I call ATV flying, where we're out doing all-terrain landings, I think the risk of flipping the plane over or hitting something or having some low-speed impact accident, not necessarily crashing, but hitting something. I guess if you're on the ground already and hit something, it's still crashing. Our risk is much higher doing this ATV type flying. So shouldn't we be wearing helmets? I mean, we're sitting there with our head bouncing around inside a cockpit full of steel bars in there, or chromoly. Why are we not trying to protect our head?
Take a look at this in slow-mo and just see the debris flying around inside the cockpit, how violent it is, how the bodies and heads are moving about. Very easy to contact other stuff in the aircraft. Watch the headset fly off. It's very violent inside of the cockpit in these types of accidents.
Some of you may have followed along on my Reno Air Racing adventure last summer, and Reno Air Racing Association, made us wear helmets. It was required. So I wore the Cobra Commander helmet. This is a Goulet helicopter helmet. It weighs about 3.4 pounds. They're somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for this helmet. They're very expensive. It's a comfortable helmet. It doesn't have noise canceling. It is heavy and it's bulky. So that's the Goulet. I bought this helmet back in 2002. This was my utility helicopter helmet. This is a SPH-5 Gentech, and it weighs 3.6 pounds. It does have the dual visor and NVG mount. I did put a hush kit in it, so it's got the Aero noise reduction kit. It's not a noise canceling, it's just thicker padding. This helmet's over $2,000 as well. You can probably find them between $1,500 and $2,000. So pretty substantial, but when you're considering a new Bose headset is roughly $1,000 to $1,500, they're not that much more expensive, although with the Bose you are getting the noise canceling. So if you wanted to bump these up to the noise canceling features, you're talking big bucks, probably $3,000 for a good helmet. The problem with them is they're big, especially the SPH-5. I can't really wear this in the Kit Fox because it's so wide it hits the one of the cross tubes above me in the cockpit. So I don't really like that helmet for the Kit Fox. The Goulet worked out okay, but as soon as the races were over, I went back to wearing my headset. And why is that? Well, I don't know. I wear these for work, and I don't really want to have to wear them when I'm out playing around because they're heavy, bulky, and they look goofy. That's probably not a good enough reason to not protect my head. So Tim got me thinking about it, and we looked at some of the other options out there, and I kind of settled in on one from the helmet's actually a tactical helmet from Team Wendy, and this company Skycowboys, I think they're up in Alaska, The guy makes an adapter that allows you to put your Bose, your Lightspeed, David Clark, whatever headsets into the helmet. So let me show you what that looks like. I just want to start by saying I'm not selling these, I'm not pitching these, I have no affiliation with them. I did call and talk to them about what I wanted to talk about in this video, and they sold it to me at cost. So I paid for this helmet. I've got no stake in that company versus any other company. This is just my opinion, and this is really just for me to open the dialogue and find out why it is that we aren't wearing helmets. So back to the helmet. This is a Team Wendy. It's an exfil SAR model. You probably may have seen search and rescue guys, military, police, or law enforcement wear this style helmet. It's very similar in construction to a bicycle helmet, a snowboarding helmet, a skateboarding helmet. It's probably going to provide you about the same level of protection of all those styles of helmets. It does have this rail system that mounts to the side that allows you to connect an earmuff spring, and these actually pop in, and that pushes the earmuff against your head, and then when you want to take it off, you pop it out, and it's really easy to remove. Skycowboys makes the adapter here that allows you to put the Bose onto this part here. It's a 3D printed part. Seems to work good. It was a little bit challenging to get everything installed because they do sell them as a complete unit, and they're about, I don't know, like $1,500, but that includes the Bose system. I just bought the helmet and then put my own system on it. And I've worn it around the house. I did get the visor option. It's tinted, and I don't know if you can get that from anyone other than Skycowboys, because at Team Wendy, they didn't have the tinted lens on there. So, but anyway, it is a one-size-fits-all, has a ratchet adjuster strap in the back. I put this on my 9-year-old, my 12-year-old, and myself, and it fits all three of us, which is great. So if I want extra protection for one of the kids when they're flying with me, I can throw this on the kids. It does have a mount point on the front. I don't know what you put in this. It's not the same style NVG mount that I use for work, but I'm sure you could put, I know they have a GoPro adapter, so you can put a GoPro on there. You could probably put, you know, a flashlight or something else on there too. Anyway, it's a cool helmet. Weight-wise, it is 2.8 pounds. All of this is. Of course, this part's not going to be on your head, so the part on your head is 2.4 pounds. So that's a solid pound lighter than the lighter of the two helicopter helmets that I have. So you're looking at, I think they're about $400 for the helmet with the visor, somewhere in there. You guys can go to Skycowboys. I'll put the link and check it out if you're interested. There are other options out there as well. I'll probably put up some links in the description for those. Like I said, I've got no affiliation. I just really want you guys to think about it. With the type of flying we're doing, that you should be protecting your noodle. So to fully endorse this one, or say this is a good helmet, let's go fly and test it out. I'm looking to see if it is going to contact anything in the cockpit while I'm flying, if it's like, you know, giving me room to move my head around without hitting anything, to see if the earmuffs, the inward pressure is too much, if it gives me a headache or not. And just see overall how I like flying it. So I'm gonna go fly for quite a bit today, and see how fatiguing it is. I'll probably throw in my old David Clark headset just in case it doesn't work out, but I'm really hopeful that it will. So let's go check it out, and I want to get you guys thinking about it. And go ahead and hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think about wearing helmets for the type of flying we're doing.
All right, so the initial thoughts on it are pretty comfortable so far. So it's taxiing out. I don't know how goofy it looks. I don't hit anything in the cockpit, but if the cushion was any higher, this bar right here would be an issue, and that's the one that's an issue with the other helmets. So far, seems to be real comfortable in the Kit Fox cockpit. Take me about a minute or two to forget that I'm wearing it. So, say if the comfortability of it is great. Lightweight, don't even really notice it on my head. So far so good. Alright, so I did find that I don't really care for the visor much. And the reason behind that is I look down a lot, and the nose bridge has a distortion. So when you're looking down kind of over your nose, it really has is like a blurred area because of the distortion, because of the shape of the winds. So kind of like right in my view when I'm looking out the window. So found that I don't really care for the visor much. You can just take it off, but you gotta think about that if you want to order it. It's not cheap. I think it's like $80 for the visor. So just a thought on that. All right, so I'm coming up on Shea Cabin. I put the camera on because it's blowing like crazy.
So I'm coming into Shea Cabin. I'm really enjoying wearing this helmet. It doesn't bother me at all. It feels real comfortable. I don't really notice it after just a little bit of flying. But let's go ahead and land here, and then let's jump into some conversation with some of the other pilots that I know and see what their opinions are with using helmets.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian. My name is Paul King. Many of you know me either through Oregon Backcountry Pilots or through STOL Rats. I'm a tailwheel pilot, like y'all. I've been posting a lot of videos, or originally I was posting a lot of videos, but a lot of you haven't seen me in a while, and there's a reason for that. Some of you may know I crashed my Super Cub this last fall at High Sierra, and I would try to keep it pretty quiet because I was pretty embarrassed, and it was a pretty substantial event in my life. The airplane was a complete loss. I think that Brian will have some videos that he'll show you that shows exactly what happened. Fortunately for me, I was unhurt, except for a minor scratch about where my watch was. The NTSB and the FAA indicated that there was no pilot error, that it was just a freak accident that happened based upon what I was doing. The story is, or the occurrence happened when I was doing an off-field landing about 18 miles northeast of Dead Cow Lake. Following another airplane in who landed successfully, I did a very stable approach in towards the canyon wall. It was a calm day, about 70 degrees, so it wasn't hot, but we're at altitude, and as I was coming up across what would have been the threshold, I felt my tail kick out to the right, and that stalled my right wing. I then proceeded to head straight for the ground, cartwheeled over my nose, and completely demolished the whole front end of my airplane.
Oh! Oh, God damn it.
Dad, you crashed!
I know. Shit.
Because you didn't have a camera on, we can't see what happened in the cockpit. From your recollection, was it a very violent impact? I mean, were you thrown about in the cockpit pretty violently?
Yes, is the easy answer to that. In fact, in looking at the cockpit when I was of a little bit more rational mind, the whole side panel where the controls are was violently dented all the way through into the back, into the framework. So my shoulder hit very hard. I was very fortunate in that both of my wings took a lot of the impact. and absorb that energy. I was probably 15 feet or more in the air when I stalled at very slow flight, as slow as my Super Cup could go, and clearly that was just on the edge of too slow. And had I had any other condition where my right wing didn't hit first, I would have been in a completely different situation. The FAA asked me one last question in my interview, and that was, what would I do different? And I think a lot of you will say you should have done this, you should have done that, but until you're there, that's just all speculation. The things that I would have done different was make sure that my airplane had the most modern equipment it could have in terms of things like vortex generators and or AOA and or some other way to tell me, or even a stall warning. My airplane didn't have a stall warning. Some way to tell that I was riding that ragged edge, because in the video and the way it felt to me, it was a completely stable approach until it wasn't. There was no forgiveness. And so part and parcel with that is making sure you're safe. Shoulder restraints, helmet, and then after that, having fun.
So really it was fairly lucky that you didn't sustain any serious injury, and that including a head injury.
Correct.
Yeah. Going forward, knowing how violent that impact was, what is your opinion on wearing a helmet when you do that kind of flying?
I think doing that kind of flying, a helmet is a necessary piece of equipment anymore. There are just too many things that can go wrong that you don't know about, I would highly recommend investing in one.
Yeah, from after seeing the video and helping you with the recovery of the airplane, one of the things that we talked about in quite a bit of detail was, had you been any higher, it would have potentially been fatal. And the luck of it happening when it did, if you want to call it lucky, the fact that it rolled and you were able to hit the wing that took the impact instead of rolling over so that the nose took the impact was a fortunate way for it to end. And I think you did win the shortest landing of the year award on that as well. I think you did about 15 feet. So
Well, I got to send you a picture of the location that I took it, because it was literally 30 yards from a dead cow. And so I think that says it all. It's the true dead cow landing.
it was, and it was awful while we recovered the airplane because that dead cow was right there. But you were also courteous enough to do it right next to a road, so we didn't have to carry the pieces very far. So.
Well, we did have the 4x4 U-Haul that would have gone anywhere at that point.
That's true. Well, thank you, Paul. We appreciate you sharing. And for everybody out there, we just want to raise this, the question of whether or not you should be wearing a helmet. And we're not saying you should. We're just saying it's something to discuss, and we want more people to talk about it. So we appreciate it.
Right,
Thanks. So for those of you who don't know, this is Tim Howes from down in Australia. He's coming out for I don't know how many years you've been coming to High Sierra. 3 or 4?
2015 was my first year.
2015. So I met Tim out at High Sierra, and he's a great guy. I really value his opinion. So share with us what you think about wearing a helmet when we do this type of flying.
Well, look, for me it was a decision. It's when I originally bought my helmet, I had 5 mates who had accidents in about a 3-week period, and every one of them, the only injury they sustained was a head injury. So to me, it was a bit of a no-brainer. And when I sat down, I kind of played a game of top trumps, against wearing a headset and wearing a helmet. And at no point was there ever an advantage to wearing a headset over wearing a helmet. It's people talk about comfort of a headset. Well, my helmet's far more comfortable than my headset is. It offers you safety, but the only thing the headset could offer me that my helmet doesn't is Bluetooth. And I've got to be honest, I'll always, particularly with backcountry flying, I'll always take safety over listening to some tunes while I fly, And then, I had one mate in that period when I had those few mates had accidents. He had actually had a cub go over on its back. It was picked up by the wash of a Dash 8 and dropped on its back, and that cub actually caught on fire.
Ooh.
And he had a student on board. He was sitting in the back seat, and he had a student in the front. Thankfully, he wasn't knocked out, but he was the first to admit that he was very close to it. And if he had been knocked out, if he hit his head any harder, both him and his mate would have burnt to death. Straight up. I mean, by the time anyone else got to the plane, the plane was crisp. And thankfully, he didn't knock himself out, but him and I ordered our helmets quite literally the very next day. And then even more recently, one of my best mates, my wingman, the guy I share a hangar with, we were flying, and he had a pretty serious accident. It shouldn't have been very serious, but just a few factors came into play that made it a lot more serious than really it should have been. And one of those factors was the seatbelt came open. We still don't know whether the seatbelt failed or it just wasn't done up properly, but it doesn't really change the fact that even in a 30-knot accident, with his seatbelt coming over, he was thrown from the pilot seat in the left-hand seat into the passenger side, slumped over in the right-hand seat. Now, the plane's gone into a tree, and his head's managed to get between the passenger seat and the door right where it's hit the tree. So his head's actually taken the full impact.
Ooh.
So basically what that resulted in is a 30-knot accident. Very low speed, low inertia accident resulted in him being airlifted to hospital. Long recovery, and really quite lucky to be alive. The irony is that exact morning he's been talking about buying a helmet for the last 12 months. And so he's put off the last 12 months getting one. And that exact morning, he'd actually said, look, I've really got to get off my ass and order my Skycowboy helmet. We'd only been talking with Bob and Lucy, Bob Breeden and Lucy Forster the week before, about saying, they were going to help us get one and everything. And that morning he said, yeah, we got to do it. And later that day he had an accident that put him in a helicopter and almost cost him his life. If he'd been wearing a helmet, simple fact is that accident, he would have been sitting in that plane trying to work out how to explain to his wife how he broke his aeroplane. That would have been the worst case. So, yeah, as I said, the amount of accidents I've seen where helmets have made a difference, and then again, people who haven't been wearing a helmet, head injuries all they've got, it's a no-brainer to me. I can't see. I said I would love to see anyone give me one valid reason, one realistic reason why not wearing a helmet would be an advantage. On the scale of what we spend on aeroplanes, if we can afford to fly an aeroplane, sacrifice a couple of hours flying, stay on the ground for a couple of weeks, spend some time with the family, the money you save, put it towards your helmet. I've got a Bonehead. They've come up a bit in price now, but mine cost me 1,400 Australian. The Bose headset's 1,250 Australian, or was at the time. They've gone up now.
Yeah.
$200 difference. What can you? That's an hour's flying in a Cessna.
I appreciate you taking the time, pulling over from your long drive to share those thoughts with me. And we look forward to seeing you again at High Sierra this year. You better not skip it.
Can't wait to get there, mate.
All right, man. Take care.
Mate, I'll catch you later. All
right. Thanks a lot.
How you doing? I'm Gary in California. I fly a Highlander. I thought I'd talk about what I've done in the last couple of years and switched to flying with a helmet. So I've grew up skiing, no helmet, have migrated to wearing a helmet. Grew up not wearing a helmet on bicycles. Now when I go mountain bike riding, I also wear a helmet. And then in the aircraft, I realize we're oftentimes landing in these rough areas where we're hitting 35, 45 miles an hour on the ground, and there's quite a bit of energy. And I've seen how close a lot of the cages around me, and through that and talking to some other folks and realizing that how much of an injury there is in Alaska, and a lot of bush pilots get hurt, and a lot of that's for head injuries, and that convinced me to actually look at getting a helmet, as I thought about also banging my head either on the roll cage, the fuselage and the cage around it, or even on the front panel itself as well. And so I started looking, and I looked for something, because I'm in California, that was lightweight, cooler for the temperatures we have. So I looked and got more of a high-end helmet that had some pretty good cooling, but I'm really happy with it. Even in just turbulence, there's been days where I've been out in moderate turbulence and I've been knocked around and I've had my helmet hit pretty hard. Finally, I looked at more some other options for a passenger that's not, maybe 10% of the time with me. And I ended up coming up with a low-cost solution, out there. A couple guys helped provide this, where it's based on a tactical helmet. We just had a couple old David Clark kind of headsets around, and now I even feel like I'm able to protect my passengers in the plane. I won't fly without anymore, just like I don't bike ride without a helmet, and just like I don't ski without a helmet. It's kind of all just become, just part of what we do to protect our head. Thanks.
Well, what is up, brother? What's your opinion about wearing a helmet?
What's my opinion about it?
Yeah.
I think we should all be wearing helmets.
Yeah. You figure all that metal in there, you take a, tip over, or you hit your wing on something.
Well, I hit my head when I tipped it over in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a helmet on.
It's a great idea. Skycowboys buy that awesome helmet.
That's what I'm trying today, and I don't have any affiliation with them, but they sent me one at Costco.
Seem like a bunch of good guys. Yeah, I'd say, hell yeah. So eventually I'm going to have one.
Well, there you go.
Sooner than later.
Right from Jake. Wear a helmet. Shay Cabin.
Shay.
Shake.
Shay.
Shay. Spelled S-H-A-Y.
Yeah, I used to say S-H-E-A-Y.
Yeah, this is your average Joe doesn't come to Shay Cabin.
That's right.
This is the shit.
This is.
Lick your eyebrows.
Yeah.
Honestly, how do you feel about a flight helmet?
I think a flight helmet is a good idea, because you know what? I think there's a lot up here. And,
you want to protect your noodle?
Protect that noodle. And
so why aren't you wearing one?
Because I'm lazy. And
is it expense?
I think the thing that bothers me the most about the flight helmet is I'm admitting that what I'm doing requires a helmet. And I hate really saying that.
We don't want to be cheap, right?
It's not the cheap part. It's just the fact that you're saying, okay, this is so dangerous that I need a helmet.
Exactly.
But you know what? People snow ski with a helmet. People mountain bike with a
ATV ride.
helmet. The ATV. Getting a helmet that looks good. The other thing is, if you get in a plane with your passenger and you're wearing a helmet and they're not, you're sending a message to them that.
So you need two.
Well, I guess you need two helmets.
So that's twice the expense.
Be honest with yourself and me. Why wouldn't you have a helmet doing what we're doing?
Well, I think the helmet's a lot of comfort, and the bows that goes with the helmet, to me, is where I want to buy one, is because it seals your ears so good.
That's right.
And makes it more comfortable to fly. It's not about worrying about crashing.
It irritates me to have to take my hat off to freaking put my headsets on to where they work better.
Well, you got to adjust your hat so where they work better. And in the helmet, it's like it's all right there. It clamps there, and it's like being able to hear people and be able to, just
I wish
see
you'd have
what's
brought your
going
helmet
on.
up so Daniel to put it on. I tell you what, it's comfortable and safe.
Very comfortable.
I had a little accident and hit my head a little bit, and it hurt. Just a little tiny bit, but it hurt.
Yeah.
I could imagine if I crashed harder, it would have been even worse. So if we wake up in the morning and it's going to be non-rainy, if it's not rainy, let's all go out and do some stuff and figure out what the helmet would help us with.
You guys can all try the helmet.
Okay.
You can all try it out. Full inverted
I might
landings.
I might take more risks with the helmet on. Is the problem?
That is a valid point. I'm wearing a helmet. I think I can make this landing. Is a valid point.
I could do it. I got a helmet on.
I might be able to walk away from it, even the airplane doesn't.
I think if you were wearing a helmet, you could have flown the 205 in here. Just saying.
I bet you could have. What do you mean? I got a viral video of the 205, dude.
All right, guys. So what it boils down to is it's your choice, right?
Yep.
What we're doing may or may not be dangerous in your eyes. If you go upside down and you're okay hitting your head, it's happened to some of our friends. It's your choice. But the option's out there. So think about it. That's what the video is about. Think about it. I'm not telling you to wear a helmet. I'm telling you to think about it.
Okay, so warming up here. Up getting some pretty good rain this morning. We all been sitting around waiting for it to clear. Got a little bit of blue sky out that way now. And the rain's let up just for a little bit. So we're going to try to get out of here. But it's almost 1 o'clock. So we've been chilling at the cabin. Hope you guys enjoyed the helmet discussion. Something different. You know, not my normal video, but just want to get you guys thinking about it. I like it. I'm going to continue to wear it. So you guys should think about doing the same. Alright, we'll see you on the next build video.
Alright, thanks for watching. I just want to say thank you to all the contributors to this video. We really appreciate the help to help spread the word that this helmet conversation could end up saving somebody's life. And specifically want to thank those that were willing to do the interviews. Very personal stuff from Paul King, Tim Howes, Gary Rudolph. Around the fire pit we had Jake Bunting, Tyler Christensen, Baja Joe Cheek, and Daniel McCreary. Some of the video content that was shown during this video was very personal and was donated by Paul King, Jonas Morcinko, Dakota Hudak, Avweb, and Jake Bunting. Guys, I put a bunch of links in the description. Check that out. There's a links to some of the content of the people who were interviewed in this video. There's also links to some of the helmets. So go ahead and take a look at that and really consider putting on a helmet and protect yourself when you're out doing this adventure flying, backcountry flying that we're doing. I'd really appreciate it if you guys share this video with other pilots, help get the word out, and really make a difference in the safety of what we're doing out there. Thanks, guys.